Welcome to the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel. I am your host, as always, Kevin Coleman at DuBois_22. And on this episode, we got a little special edition of the episode, and we're going to be talking about some recent news. And we're going to be looking at Jacob Eason, QB1 for the Colts. Can we rely on him? Is he going to be the guy? I know Sam Ehlinger is there. And the reason why we're going over Jacob Eason and just kind of in detail who he is as a quarterback is because Carson Wentz is injured. Tell me if you heard that before. You know, he looks like he has foot surgery. Frank Reich came out and said, hey, he could be out from anywhere from 5 to 12 weeks. And so we're talking about a guy that realistically, you know, Jacob Eason, if he is named the starter, you know, he could be there week 6, week 7, week 8. Like, we don't know necessarily, but he's going to get the opportunity. They just came out and said that they're not trading for anybody. Now, that could be smoke screens. I know people mentioned Nick Foles because of his relationship with Reich. I saw Mariota out there, but by all accounts, it seems like they're going to roll with Eason, and that's what I'm kind of going with. And so if they are going to roll with Jacob Eason, what can we expect? Is he going to be fantasy relevant? What are you doing with him in dynasty leagues and redraft leagues and all that? That's what we're going to look at today. Quicker episode, but I definitely want to give a shout out to some people that maybe just don't know who Jacob Eason is. You hear him. I know not everybody's a Debbie guy like me. So, you know, he got picked round 4, pick 122. Out of Washington. Obviously, he started his career at Georgia, and that's what we're going to kind of look at. And, you know, everybody kind of loved this pick because they figured, hey, he could sit behind Rivers, and then they'd be ready for him to go. Now, them going out and getting Wentz does tell you maybe that they're not as sold on Eason as other people. But, you know what? Let's look at his college stats. Now, he played at Georgia for 2 years. Obviously, that second year, he didn't play a lot, so that led to his transfer to Washington. And in his career, you know, he had 468 passes, completions for 782 attempts out of 782 attempts. I will say his completion percentage is what worries me. His career is 59%. Now, his last year at Washington, he had a 64% completion percentage. So it did go up a little bit. He had 5,590 yards passing, 39 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. At Washington, the junior year that he came out, which everybody's kind of shocked that he came out a little early, he did have 23 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So he had a pretty good year at Washington when he was there. And, you know, him coming out kind of did shock some people around the country. And in terms of scouts and NFL guys, they figured he'd come back for his senior year, but he didn't. And so he landed at Indianapolis, and he was there last year. So when we're talking about Eason and looking at what were his strengths coming out of college and weaknesses and what people saw, what scouts saw, I definitely wanted to take a look at that. And so is he primed, ready to go for this system? Can he do well in this system? That's the question mark. What does he do? So let's talk about his strengths first. And I'm going to show you some video on this. First of all, he's got arm strength. I mean, that's number one. They talk about how he has a howitzer of an arm, and he does. It is a legitimate arm, and he can get it to anywhere. Like, he has a natural talent for his arm strength, and that's something that's going to be very apparent. That's something you're going to hear a lot of. Play action. He did very well in play action progressiveness. Like, hey, he knows where things are going. He knows where the ball is going in play action. When the teams put around him a very good talent at the running back position and they don't try to make him do too much and they say, hey, here's your read, he does very well. If that sounds great, they got Jonathan Taylor, one of the best running backs in the NFL. Like, their system fits him very well. Just his ability to kind of use that play action trends, do those type of things, and go there. Ball placement, too. When he has his mechanics right, this kid can place the ball, and he can get it to a lot of back shoulder throws, corner throws. There's a lot of throws that he can make when he does his fundamentals correctly and his mechanics. I actually like his ball placement a lot. And his mechanics are good in terms of, like, hey, he can set up, he gets it quick. I like his upper body mechanics. I love his throwing motion. I like his release. Sometimes his lower body can put him into some problems, and we'll mention that. But his upper body mechanics, his ability to get the ball out, his quick release, like, that is all there. So his strengths are very good. Now, I'm going to show you some highlights as we go through here. It'll run a couple times. You'll see it here. First of all, arm strength. Gets it to his guy, sets up pretty well, gets the ball out quick, release, on the money, no problem. Like, that's a great throw. Another one, as we kind of go through here. You'll see him here. Good mechanics up front, quick release, gets it into coverage. I mean, that's not an easy throw that he gets it there. You'll see it. 3rd and 17, knows he got to get it past the boundary, gets it there. Boom, perfect throw. Like, that is good Jacob Eason. Good Jacob Eason's very good. Now, again, ball placement. Soft touch, gets to the outside. That's a hell of a throw, too. Like, that's an NFL-level throw right here. Sees his receiver. Look at where that defender is on that receiver. Able to get it on the back shoulder. Perfect throw. That's the good. So when we're talking about Jacob Eason and we're mentioning like, hey, what is the good? That's the good. Arm strength, ball placement, good mechanics when he's not under pressure. Now, the weaknesses come from pace and progressions. And just in general, like he really struggles with where does this ball need to go at this time? And he really struggles with the pace of that. Like, hey, here's my first read, second read, third read. He very goes through those reads. He varies it. He goes, all right, here's my first read, here's my second read. There's no quick action. I think that's the key for him. Know where he's got to go and get it out because the NFL speed is so much different. And he struggled with this in the college speed. And I'm going to show you a little highlight of that too, or low light, whatever you want to talk about it. Processing is another one, but I really don't think that that's a terrible it's not a terrible weakness of his. I think that goes along with progressions as well. He does struggle against pressure, and he has no rushing upside. So when we're looking at him, I think he had negative yards in college because they can do that. I believe he had like a negative 126 yards in college. He's not a rushing upside guy. He's not a functional athleticism. He does not have that functional athleticism that you like to see in the pocket. So when we're talking about like, okay, what are we doing with him as a rusher? There is none. Okay, he's going to be a strict passer. Can he get it out? And I know that limits his floor, right? Especially in, fantasy leagues. Everybody loves our Konami guys. Not everybody can be those guys. But that's going to really limit him. He has no rushing upside. None. So just so you know, and he struggles against pressure, and he feels that pressure, and he does it really well. Now, let's talk about where he goes. This was quick. You'll see it again right here. So you're going to see him play action. He's going to feel some pressure. And this is where his mechanics start to go. He sees him coming. He gets a little flustered, and he can overthrow. Based on his arm talent, sometimes you'll notice he thinks he can just get the ball there. And I think that he struggles with it really well over the middle. Now, could have been a throwaway. And I think if this was a throwaway, that's a pretty good throwaway here. You'll see the underneath the defenders here. But he has a seam. It's not like that receiver doesn't have a seam. He's probably scoring a touchdown if he can. That is, I think, one area he struggles. He will struggle with his mechanics sometimes when he gets rushed and gets a little bit of pressure. Now, here's another one, and this is an interception. Here's another thing about processing. He sees him too late, and I think that's the problem here. He's staring down his receiver, and he basically just stares him down this whole time, and you'll notice it. Comes over, he's staring at him, believes that his arm can get there. And if you'll notice, he got pressured a little bit again. So he feels a little bit of pressure. You can see if you look at his footwork and where he's at, he's lacking there, and you can tell that he's off platform. Quick pass, interception, and that's not what you want to see. And that's something that he needs to work on. Now, he got better at Washington, and he didn't have as many mistakes as he had at Georgia, but that's something that he can struggle with, and that's just something that we have to keep in mind. Like, hey, he's going to have that issues. Now, let's talk about his redraft and dynasty outlook and what we expect from him. So in Indianapolis, we know they have an elite offensive line. They got a power run game, and Reich he's a quarterback guy. So he's been working with him for 2 years. Those are all things that are very good for him. He stepped into a great situation. Now, the receiver group, I'm still on Paris Campbell. I'm still buying Paris Campbell. I still believe in him. Pittman, I'm a little bit more concerned about based on his price. And Hilton, I'm out because he gets injured. I don't trust him. But in terms of like redraft and dynasty, I'm going after Paris Campbell because his price is too good. As far as, the running backs, I don't think this really hurts Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor will be fine. He's an athlete. He's going to be just fine in this offense. And honestly, he's probably a value now because people are going to overrate this move and overrate this injury. I'm really on Nyheim Hines, though. I think Nyheim is going to have a great year. I really do. I think he could be a valuable flex option. So there's go there. Now, as far as like, hey, what is he going to do? Rivers last year had the third lowest time to throw average at 2.39 seconds. So when you're looking at this, you're going to see the ball get out quick. And I think that will help Jacob Eason. I think they're going to put him in a very good, mind frame of what they're going to try to accomplish, where they're going to go. Hey, get the ball out quick. Here's your read. Go. It will limit some of his processing mistakes, and I think that would be good. I think he has a ton of raw talent. As far as redraft goes, for me, he's not someone I'm drafting. He's someone I'm streaming. After a couple weeks, we'll see how he does, those type of things. We can look at it the preseason there. Dynasty is a little different. So when we're looking at Dynasty, I know a lot of people have him. Jacob Eason should not be on your waiver wire in Dynasty League. If he's on your waiver wire in Dynasty League, get in a better Dynasty League. But what I will say is, like, should you go trade for him? I have Carson Wentz in one league that I'm in because I just have him, and I couldn't unload him. I was hoping he'd have a good year this year. So thank you, Carson. But if I'm okay with my quarterback situation, I'm not reaching for a Jacob Eason. Now, if I own Jacob Eason, I saw him go for a first recently. Yeah, you smash that, you take that first, because that you're never going to get better value for Jacob Eason no matter what. If it's a second, late second, a super flex, I think you got to be really concerned with that. I don't know. I think for me, if he's my QB2, because I maybe didn't prioritize my QBs, I'm going to hold on to him and just hope that he's in there. And maybe I have Wentz backing up and he'll come back from his injury. If he's my QB3 or 4, I'm looking to move him. I think that he can be very, very solid. I don't think that he's going to be a new guy. Like, hey, some people are talking about him as being QB1. I don't know necessarily see that, but I would probably move him in Dynasty if I can get correct value. If I can't get correct value, hold on. Maybe he has a few good games. Some injuries happen. You can get even better value, but it's a crapshoot. That's like Texas Hold'em all in. What am I going to do? So for me, his trade value is essentially, if you can get a first or maybe an early second plus a piece, I'd move him. If you can't get that, I'd hold, let it ride, see how he does, which, as we've kind of mentioned and we talked about, he's done a lot of good stuff. I don't think he's going to be a terrible quarterback. I really think that he can be a very serviceable quarterback, especially with that arm. And when you're looking at that arm, that's something special. And if they go with him, and if they go and they ride with him, that would be great. Now, there's always a possibility they move, but again, he's been in the system. He's been there 2 years. I think that's who they're going to have. Now, talk about their schedule when you're looking at who they're going to play. They play the Seahawks, the Rams, the Titans, and then the Dolphins. Those are tough defenses. So that's why when I'm looking at redraft, I'm out. That's why Dynasty, I'm going to try to move him before week 1 if I can, because Seattle, Los Angeles Rams, Titans, Dolphins, there's nothing to sneeze about those first 4 games. Those are legit. And then they got the Ravens. So the first 5 games of the year, you're looking at top defenses from last year. Now, I know things change. I know the Seahawks had some issues with their secondary, those type of things, but we could be looking at these are just very, very tough games. And so now the only nice thing is they get the Seahawks and the Rams at home. So home field advantage, those type of things, get fans back. There should be some change there. But as far as this goes, I just want to give you a shout out what he does well, what he doesn't do well, where you should be looking at redraft and Dynasty, and what his trade value is. And a couple of the trades that I have seen is like a first, second, those type of areas. So that's where you're realistically looking. So I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.